everyone. I'm Kunzis, and I don't want you to know me so much as I want you to know my land and my people and what I'm going to be talking about. So I encourage you to read it. I can't, say everything, but I do encourage you to read and look at the photographs so you get a taste of Ladakhi history and heritage through a presentation at least. So what is artisanal alchemy and what is it that I do? Artisanal alchemy is literally a taste of Ladakhi history and heritage. I curate only 60 tables in a year. By a year, I mean a season. We have seasonal tourism, and I try and do pop-ups across the country in winters because that's the time in the subcontinent when our carb, fat, and protein-rich food is best suited for the Indian palate. And through these immersive sit-down, at least 3 hours lunches or dinners, it's gone on to 6 hours at the Jade House, which is my parents' place, and at my cousin's property, which is the Stoke Palace. We take our diners through an immersive experience. And how is it different we are not just serving food, but we are serving food with a narrative. Because personally, I honestly feel that that is how it should be represented. The whys, hows, whens. And why food? Oh. Yeah, why food, you'll ask, or why heritage, and why Ladakhi food? If you ask why food, the question, or why traditional food, I think you'll get most profound answers from, say, in today's date and time, a Palestinian. It literally means genocide. It means the end of a culture. It means the end of identity. It means end of geography. And, or a Tibetan refugee, where it's literally cultural genocide. And that's why we talk about appropriating food or intangible cultural symbols. Or say a Kashmiri Pandit in our own country, who cannot go back to Kashmir or cannot settle back in Kashmir. So food is all that. And in something as basic as a simple plate of food, of traditional meal, we eat 3 times a day. Some of us eat 6 times a day. Some eat once or twice. But we get to experience literally the history of a land. And as I say to my diners, the wisdom of my ancestors, in a simple meal. And it is the best way to experience culture. You don't need to speak the same language. You don't need to have the same value system or even ideals or opinions. But in something as simple as sharing a simple meal with a stranger, you get to experience the history of the land and the culture. We've been enjoying local food in the buffets. Even though we can't speak the tongue, we are a little bit more richer in experience. And why Ladakh? Why Ladakhi food? There is a simple concept in Ladakhi we call stendel, which I have come to think is closest to the term economy of permanence by Professor Dr. J.C. Kumarappa. And it literally translates to the interdependence, the sustainable interdependence between both animate and inanimate objects, in the entire ecosystem. And that is Ladakhi food. It's not just food, it's an entire way of life that revolves around what we eat, because Ladakh is probably one of the most isolated and challenging climates and geographies in the world that has sustained civilizations since very long time. And it might seem very frugal in front of an aspirational Kashmiri Vazwan or even Tibetan cuisine, which has a lot of East Asian influences. But it has sustained generations of my ancestors in a place which is isolated and cut off from not just the rest of the world, but sometimes the very next village for months at a time. And yeah. So these are some of the few reasons why Ladakhi food or Ladakhi culture or intangible Ladakhi heritage and representing it through food is important. And it's intangible in the sense, and one of the best representations. It can be nostalgia when we are far away from home. And even when we don't have access to other symbols of our culture and heritage, when we are far removed from home, it is something that we can access within ourselves on a daily basis. A lot of people think that Ladakh is in the folds of the Himalayas. So Ladakh is the only Indian state or union territory that's in the Trans-Himalayan region. It's literally a different continental plate. It's the Eurasian continental plate. And that is why Ladakhi food is so important and different and needs representation in the rest of the country. I started doing pop-ups in 2022, 2023, and I started with Mumbai. Just a sec. It's not going next. Yeah. So I started doing pop-ups in 2023, 2022. I was too pregnant to travel last year. My first pop-up was in Mumbai. My second and my third were in Kerala, in Kochi and Kottayam. And I got a bit emotional listening to Mr. Rupesh Kumar's presentation, because everything that he said, I experienced it while I was doing my pop-up. It's not just a more tolerant culture. It's a very informed, educated, gentry with basic, that basic civility and cultural sensitivity that goes beyond anywhere else in the country. And these pop-ups in Mumbai, in Kerala, in Delhi, and etc., I literally started it to present a narrative of Indian food. What is Indian enough? Especially now, in the past decade or so, what is Indian enough? Who's to say what is Indian enough? My food is as Indian as, say, dal, roti, chawal. And especially now, it might anger some people, but truth be told, we are in a country where we have lynching of human beings in the name of non-violence to cows. And yeah, that is the truth of India today. And I personally feel food can be a great introduction to diversity if we allow it. If we allow it, it can literally, because breaking bread with a person, that's the simplest thing that you can do, letting a person in, within your space, within the space of your culture, and opening up to someone else's culture. So, and I was so happy to see Cynthia from Assam over here as a fellow nominee, because that onus is on us to represent. We are a very few people, we are an ethnic minority. Any majoritarian government will probably swallow us without even a burp. But to keep the idea of us, our culture, that onus is on us from different parts of the country to represent in the wider narrative of what is Indian and Indian enough. So, and also one reason why I started this was to, break myths. People think that Himalayan food, Ladakh is not even in the Himalayas, by the way, but people think that Himalayan food is what? Momo, Maggi, and thukpa. So Momo is Tibetan or in origin. It's not even Indian or Ladakhi, My parents never grew up eating Momo. It's appropriated in the F&B sector in the entire Himalayan belt, but it belongs to people who are facing cultural genocide. And when we appropriate someone else's food, we don't just discredit theirs, but we discredit the wisdom of our ancestors that has survived them. So, this thing, the bastardization, if I may use the term, the bastardization of food, local culinary heritage in the wider narrative of Ladakhi cuisine in Ladakh itself. To meet those lacunas, I started these immersive cultural experiences, and also to represent in the wider narrative of Himalayan food. Uttarakhand has its own rich cuisine. Himachal has Himachali dham. So does Nepal, Bhutan, which is not Indian, but in the Himalayan belt. And so does, Arunachal and Sikkim and Kashmir. But why are we more familiar with a cuisine of a people who are, as it is, hanging on to one of the last intangible cultural narratives? Also, I would want to, a lot of people might not be informed that Ladakh is probably the only place in India that has a historical continuum of Buddhism. When Buddhism is wiped out in India, and then it slowly revived. Before Tibet is Buddhist. Buddhism is introduced, and then we have remnants of Bonism, so which was persecuted in Tibet before, when Buddhism is institutionalized. So Ladakhi food culture is such that it is unlike anywhere else, not just in the subcontinent, but in the world, because it is one of the only secular democracies in the world that has a historical continuum of Tantrayana Buddhism or Buddhism with remnants of Bonism. And representing that through my lunches or dinners, I personally feel is the only way I can do justice to it. Just some things that you need to know would be interesting to you, that I'm a vegetarian. I've turned a vegetarian to practice detachment from food, but there's no concept of non-vegetarian in Ladakh. There's no word for the term, there's no concept of vegetarianism in Ladakh. There's no word for the term vegetarian. I was so happy to see the menu over here at the hotel that we are staying. It had beef, and that it had a lot of local dishes, you know. We are not doing that in our state. Yak meat in Ladakh is legal for sale, but there's no butcher selling it, like beef over here, or say mithun in Assam. And that is what is happening with greater integration into India, or the idea of India, or what we think is the idea of India, or what most people think is the idea of India. If I may say so, there's a subtle Sanskritization in a trans-Himalayan region that has historically been slaughtering and sacrificing. And the biodiversity of Ladakh, I told you that it's literally a different continental plate. So what the earth sustains in terms of both plant and animal biodiversity is entirely different from the rest of the world. We have two-humped camels, probably the only place in India where you have two-humped camels or other animals. But these lunches are an immersive experience in the sense the narrative, no two meals are same, and the narrative literally depends on the direction the client directs it. So I encourage my diners to not just talk about food, but everything else. You know, we connect ecology with climate, with geography, with culture, with religion, with history, and take them through a meal. And it is that much more important to do it because food doesn't exist in isolation, especially in a place where nothing grows for a good 7-8 months. Not a blade of grass grows. And it is the rich preservation practices or the culinary heritage that sustains people there. Just to give you an idea of what the terrain looks like, we have white granite sand dunes. We have the largest brackish lake in the world. We also, interestingly, have Asia's largest site of petroglyphs, around 600 documented sites of petroglyphs that prove that Ladakh had civilization at least 2,000 to 3,000 years before the idea of the Silk Route even came in. Yeah, these are some of the herbs. So people ask me, what are you eating as a vegetarian? What do you eat? And Ladakhi food does not use spices. Indian food is synonymous with the use of spices. Pepper is probably the only Indian spice that is being used in Ladakhi cuisine. It marries very well with the climate and culture. What we use is herbs, not even turmeric, not even red chili powder. So traditionally, these are some of the herbs that are foraged, that are de-weeded, that are shade-dried, that are sun-dried, and used in the food. I want you to read this if you can, but this is a bit beyond, the cliches that it is Little Tibet. Ladakh is a lot more. If you see the ancient territory of Ladakh, it is surrounded by these rich ancient civilizations, Indian subcontinent, Tibet and China, and it's Persia and Central Asia. So all of that affects Ladakh. And it's a lot more than, say, Little Tibet or the cliches that surround it. So you might have seen my fellow Ladakhis who might have come, and the original racial stock of Ladakh is Dards. Wasim from Turtuk could be racially an example of what are Dars. The Tibetanization of Ladakh happens much later in the 7th and 8th century. And through this meal, we represent that. I don't just represent the history and the climate, but the effect of, say, the public distribution system. We talk about how tourism or the Wildlife Act, all these things that are part of history that have affected the food and a lifestyle and the changing culinary landscape in the region itself. So to end it all, artisanal alchemy, I have invested zero money in, say, infrastructure. I've never had a photographer for a photo shoot even. It is, I don't have a restaurant, though I'm married into a family that built the first hotel in Ladakh. I don't even do the dining experiences at my husband's hotel. It is only at my home and at the Sukh Palace, which is a symbol of a cultural heritage. And there's nothing more to it. It's just a voice and a meal. And that is all that is required, to generate interest, to generate inquiry, to represent what we are. And it seeks to honor the wisdom, again, I'm repeating it, the wisdom of my ancestors and the history of my land, beyond the cliches, beyond a tourist season, with pop-ups, beyond the territory of my land, in the most simple way that I can or anyone can, through a meal. And sometimes, I have diners who don't even speak the same language, who don't understand English. But then, yeah, they have grown that much wiser and richer in experience. That's it. Thank you.